Hey guys, what's up? Misha from GGD here, and today I'm going to be showing you one of the projects for one of the demos I did for our new One Kit Wonder Aggressive Rock Kit. The guys told me that they wanted something aggressive. Nolly and I had this old project called Snuggles, and actually for his demo, he did a little cover of the beginning of one of the songs called Shinty 6. Which is that Mitchell and Webb look reference for my Brit friends out there. I love those guys. You may know that from the Periphery song titles. Anyways, I digest. So they said, hey, why don't you do something in the vein of Snuggles? And Snuggles was always fun. It was supposed to be like fast, energetic. And I just thought that was going to be a blast to work on. And this came together very quickly as a result because I was just kind of vibing. I was like, yep. I think I even just got some drums going and it's just kind of riffing to it. So why don't we just jump in and hear what this sounds like in case you don't know what it sounds like already. Fun, right? Supposed to be a minute long, so that's Instagram friendly. Anyways, so let's look at what's going on here. So obviously we have the kit, and what I'm doing is I am doing the multi-out because that's just the way I like to mix. Obviously we made these kits so that beginners could just jump right in, turn on the parallel master EQ, run in stereo, and just start riffing, or use our groove packs and start writing immediately. And that's wonderful. But it also can be used in the way that I like to use it, where I like to multi-out everything and just kind of run it into my usual setup. And because I use a similar mapping on everything, I can just sort of map it into my existing drum map for all my Cubase friends out there. This is a very powerful tool, which I think maybe Studio One and Logic are like catching up on this, but Cubase has had this for a while. It's a reason why I'm such a big fan of Cubase. But the drum map here, it'll generally translate. This is definitely a stripped down kit. Like we only have 2 toms. And yeah, this is what the kit pieces sound like. I think that kick and snare are just awesome. Like they just sound massive, low tuned, and huge. It's kind of what you think of when you think of aggressive rock. And I believe these are not Meinl cymbals. I remember going to Nolly and be like, why do these sound so different? And I think they're Zildjians.
Huh? No, that's Sabians. I
need to know the answer to that. But
yeah,
regardless, they're pretty different sounding. And he was like, it's good to have some other color. And sometimes I will mix and match kits. I build Franken kits. It's what I'm using for the solo album. And actually, I plan on doing a video on that as well. Sorry, just been kind of preoccupied with the solo album, but I did want to get this together for you. So before I get too distracted, let's take a look at what's going on in the mix here. So what do you want to look at? Drums first? Let's take a look at drums. So this is what I have going on, and it looks like I've got a lot of processing, but actually you'll see I've disabled a lot of plugins because these drums are already fairly processed, and I'm actually using the master EQ on the kit. It's a subtle difference, but I kind of like it with it on. Shows you there's no real rules, because that's really sort of aimed at people who are doing the stereo mix, but I appreciate the added brightness. But I can take off a lot of the plugins I'd normally do on like a full or on a kit which is, you know, not quite as processed. So like the kick here, you know, got trusty smash and grab. So like, and these ones which are grayed out are off. They're just, might as well save the CPU by turning them off completely. But without, this is like not massive differences, but I feel like these things do go a long way. One thing that you are hearing there is you are hearing the bleed into the mics, which you believe you can get rid of that. I don't know. I didn't even bother to look. I think it sounds good, so why mess with it? So without it, the snare you'll notice a lot, and it's really smash and grab doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. All the attack and the sustain coming from the snare is from smash and grab there. We have virtual mix rec. I like this EQ. This EQ is, I'd say, not super necessary. Here, I'll turn it on and off so you could sort of hear. Just a little bit of top end. I think this slate EQ, it's like four bands from like different EQs that he likes, but it's a super smooth top end. Like I think I'm boosting like 12K, you know. That's not something that you normally would boost, and even 7K. It's just very smooth sounding top end, so you can kind of actually use it. Generally, when I'm mixing, especially when I'm mixing metal aggressive stuff, it's more about cutting than boosting. But if you have a really smooth or good sounding EQ, you can actually boost pretty well. And this is the main snare EQ. Which doesn't sound like it's doing a lot, but it's just making it sound like fit in the mix a little better. And then actually, I really like this transient designer by Waves. Again, all these things are just little moves. I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot's going on. And the truth is, none of the moves I'm doing are about processing that heavily because the sounds are already sort of half processed. So it's more about refining. And the other half is really getting these things to work in the context of the mix. And that's a big thing. So we have these big, heavy guitars. You know, here, let's skip over to overheads. I did one of Ermin's most favorite things in the world and just threw some Soothe on here. I didn't even, I think I just like put the default setting on there and just, it just kind of gets that, some of that like messy top end and some of the harshness out of it. I find it's a plugin that you can go a little bit overboard with. So I always set it to where I think I want, and then I set it back a little bit. And I know some people don't love it, but I definitely have some applications where I swear by it. And then the ever important room sound. So we're just getting a lot of sustain from smash and grab. As always, there's smash and grab on everything. And you know, for this, I'm definitely in smash mode. You can see it's going to -10. Because I do like to smash my rooms. You know, going for a grabby, like very barely anything here on smash and grab there. Getting a touch of saturation. I genuinely love smash and grab. It's something that I use all over the mix, and I think sometimes people are like, oh, do you have to use it? It's like, no, I can use whatever I want. But I just really like it. It just works. So I've kind of, since we put it out, it's just been my mainstay. Definitely drum compressor, and I've messed with it for other stuff like vocals as well. All right, moving to guitars. So we're actually using those are plugins. Those are the Neural Fortin NTS suite, and I always put Zilla cabs because I don't think any cab suite is ever as good as ours, especially not in the mix, especially not when A/Bing it. So I much prefer this, and this is the cab setup, which I believe is my Genty preset, which just works really well. So I always disable the cab model on these and just run that into Zilla. I find it just makes it sound a lot bigger and have a lot more relevant frequencies kind of popping through. A lot of IRs I feel like don't get the high end quite right. And this amp, I'm going to be entirely honest with you, Neural sent all their stuff. They're good friends, and they sent all their stuff over for me to use, which is great. But I was not so hot on the Fortin stuff. But for this song, it was working really well. And, sometimes things just work. So it's kind of cool. Like, it's something to remember. Sometimes if you can't get something to work just right, experiment with some stuff that you maybe haven't gotten to work before. It's a bit of a different context than like a Periphery song or whatever, right? So I think these are sounding pretty cool. Definitely a ton of gain. That's the kind of idea with these. One cool little thing that's happening here is I wanted this kind of like fuzzy section. So it's got fuzz and an octave. So what I do when I'm recording, a big reason I like to use plugins to record these days is you get the DI and it's all pure and you can edit the DI. And I'm going to spit it from my Axe effects over here. Which locks you into recording into 48, but that's just what I do now. I'll sometimes, anything that goes in front of the amp, I'll just, run on the Axe effects. So I think there's like a fuzz octave, or maybe I ran a fuzz and an octave, like a pitch block, because they're both really good. I mean, the Axe effects, honestly, everything on it is great. It's just I get the flexibility of being able to reamp sometimes through the Axe effects or these amps after the fact, and I could easily do that with this. If I was putting it out, I probably would reamp it. But this is actually baked into the DI. So let's see if we can hear that actually. That's the actual DI. But yeah. It's just so grimy. I love that, right? But this worked out pretty well for this like Genty section over here. And then just looking real quick at the bass, I gotta give a big shout out to good buddy Ermin Hamidovich. He's mastered all of our stuff, and he's put out these amazing bass plugins. His company, Submission Audio, has this gin bass, which you can guess what that's hinting at. What I actually like to do is I like to run both a clean and a distorted one at the same time. So this is actually program bass. So that's distorted, and then this is the clean one. I do find that this bass is really bright, so I do try to compensate for that a little bit. But I think, one, it's super handy for writing, because I could just quickly get bass, and it's perfectly in tune, which is awesome. And I did use one of my Evertune guitars for this, so it just helps everything really lock in, If you listen to these together... like perfectly in tune, no drama. So I like that, and I think in the context of a demo, or maybe even a full album, like the bass is good enough to use. So, that's pretty cool. I guess one more thing we could look at is maybe some guitar processing. I know this is a GGD video, but you know what? We're here. Let's take a look at it. So main things would be the guitar EQ, which just really meant to help it sit in the mix. I always add a little bit of brightness. I always cut a little around 4.5K, just because, listen to this. It's just, there's nothing really of value there, right? So we just cut that out a little bit. And I always find that if I do that, it can neuter the energy of it a little bit. So I'll always boost around like 2.1 or so to sort of counteract this, to give back a little bit of what's taken away. Let's scoop the mids a little bit there. I'm actually scooping 750 because I like to boost that on the bass for like the clank and the grind of the bass. So it's always just sort of working spectrally. Another thing that I'm doing, which is kind of fun, is the good old Andy Sneap trick, which is, you know, you just multi-band compress the lows here. You'll see this sort of activate when the palm mutes come in, but without it, you can hear those getting a little bit more unruly there, especially there. But with it on, it just tames that very, very low mid, low area in a really cool way, because it'll actually maintain the character and everything, and only kicks in when it's getting overbearing. And so it's not messing with your EQ so much. It's dynamic like that. So that's compression. So, but it's just compressing that one range, that one offending range when it happens. So I think that's how you get these things to sound a lot tighter, you know? And then, you know, we've got parallel compression, which is how I get more sustain and power out of the drums. Again, running in smash mode here on smash and grab. In parallel mode. We have modes for all this stuff on purpose. I do something kind of cheeky. I run a decap bus, which is just like a little saturation bus, which doesn't do a lot, and it kind of gives you some attack back. And I send like drums and maybe a little bit of everything to that. And I've got reverb, really just for the snare, which doesn't sound like much, but it helps it sort of expand in the mix. But if I mute it, you hear the snare, but it just sort of sits there like this. I feel like helps it just bloom a little bit. Not a massive difference, but I think you'll learn by now that like a lot of the moves I make are very small moves that all sort of add up to something, right? And then the master bus. I think you guys have been asking to see this. This is a general curve. So like I practice Nolly's philosophy of top-down mixing. So just mixing into your master bus, fake master bus or whatever. And this is why I work with guys like Ermin who know that I do that and can sort of recreate it in much higher fidelity on his end after the fact. But we sort of, this is sort of like our philosophy to tone right here in counteracting. All tones are too dark. All tones have too much mid-range. All tones don't have enough low end. And, you know, this is just like a safety cut. Like, don't need any of those frequencies anyways. So just, that's the very first thing there, right? Next thing, I absolutely love this. It's an SSL compressor. I'm running the high-pass filter, so it ignores the kick. So you can run the compression kind of high and run it pretty aggressive, but with it really just ducking the snare. It's going -3, well, maybe a little bit more right now, but like it's mainly interacting with the snare. The kick is really just kind of getting it a little bit because I'm high passing at, what am I high passing at? I don't know, it's not showing me. It doesn't matter. I was metering it when I was dialing that in anyways. That does quite a bit, as you can hear. Then this is one of my mid-side fixes things. I don't think that you really need to have a lot of stereo signal in the low end. I mean, any at all. So this basically gets eliminated. That's what we're listening to, is what is actually getting cut out of the stereo field. And that allows that to just exist in the mono field. This is a bit more advanced stuff, but I think it's pretty cool. Cutting that out of the center, this 700 range, I don't know, sounded good. And just a little bit of top end just in the stereo field there. And then mono can kind of dominate more. And I just find that you get more of a focused mix. Let's see if you can hear it. Subtle, but I do find that it does make a difference. And then this is Nolly's left-right stereo thing that he sent to me. Again, his philosophy, but doing the left and the right channel slightly different, seems to give it a bit more width. It's pretty cool. Then Ermin's favorite limiter in the whole world. He seriously hates this limiter. I love it because it has a lot of character. We are pretty loud right now, but this tames all the transients, chops everything down. Anyway, we've made this like pretty long, and we haven't even talked about drums that much. But yeah, here's a programming. So some quick tips on programming is I like to keep my velocities in general around 100 to 110, depending on what you're going for. Those are where we have sampled the sort of sweet spot hits. Everything that's above that, you'll see here is like an accent. It's like for a flam or something like that. Those are hits that would destroy a drum head if you played an entire song like that, or even like maybe like 30 seconds like that. So it's not realistic. And if you want, I find that they choke the drums out a lot, so you actually get less tone. And you'll sort of find if you know, in Cubase, you could do this fairly easily, like select everything and like, you know, adjust the levels. But you can like hear it as you play through, like. Like, I find it just has a lot more tone when you stick to that 110. You don't stick to the absolute hardest hits. I like this kit because it's kind of meat and potatoes. Like, it's not like a ton of stuff to program with, and sometimes that can just force you to get creative with what you have, especially two tones. I just love to switch things up. Some ghost notes in there. I love just sneaking those little things. Makes it sound more realistic too. Anyways, that's a rather long overview of a very short demo. If you're still watching, thank you. I know I've gone over a lot of stuff, but it's also some stuff that you guys have asked about, so hopefully this is useful. I'll go over the clean one as well. Maybe I won't need to go into quite as much. Well, I won't have to repeat any of the same stuff that I've gone over. So anything that's the same, I'll skip in that one. Maybe we can focus a bit more on the differences in sound and what I went for on the guitars on that one. But anyways, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you soon.